This week, we take a look at one of the oldest language learning devices, the Rosetta Stone. We are not talking about this Rosetta Stone, but its namesake. The Rosetta Stone is a slab inscribed with what is known as the Decree of Memphis, and considered by many to be the single most important find for Egyptology. It is significant in the fact that the decree was copied 3 times in 3 different writing systems of the time: Ancient Greek, Egyptian Demotic, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. At the time of its discovery in 1798, hieroglyphs was a dead writing system that no one could read, but were inscribed all across Egypt. Ancient Greek being widely known by scholars at the time, and although Demotic was only recently discovered, the 2 texts gave scholars a starting point to begin the daunting task of finally deciphering ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. So physically, this is the Rosetta Stone, with its inscription on a granodiorite slab weighing approximately 760 kilograms. In its current fractured state, the stone measured 1,123 millimeters in height, 757 millimeters wide, and 284 millimeters thick. Complete, the stone would have been nearly 1,500 millimeters tall. The front surface is polished, the side smoothed, with the back only roughly worked. The top is believed to have been rounded with some type of inscribed depiction of the king along with the gods, as with other similar stones of the Ptolemaic dynasty. Now let's talk why the Rosetta Stone was made. Egypt, during the Ptolemaic dynasty, was under Greek rule, and in 196 BCE, after the coronation of Ptolemy V, the Rosetta Stone was made by a group of priests, touting the accomplishments of the king and listing honors bestowed to the priests and temples by the king. The stone also showed the public that the priests supported the king's reign. The Rosetta Stone would not have been the only one made, thus making this stone not particularly important in its own right. These stones would have been placed in many temples all across Ptolemy V's kingdom, thus the need for the 3 writing systems inscribed on the stone. The Rosetta Stone was discovered in what is now known as the modern-day town of Rashid, Egypt, or in the west as Rosetta. The stone itself is believed to have originally been placed in a temple in a nearby town. Sometime around the 14th or 15th century, many temples and monuments were dismantled and used as building materials. The Rosetta Stone was used as fill in the building of what is now known as Fort Julian, near the town of Rashid. In 1799, during Napoleon's campaign of Egypt, as his engineers were refortifying Fort Julian, a French officer, Pierre-Francois Bouchard, rediscovered the stone, noting its obvious significance. Napoleon, being an enthusiast of ancient Egypt, established the Egypt Institute to study his campaign's finds. Within a year, copies of the text were made, and soon scholars all over Europe began deciphering the stone. The French would not have possession of the stone for long, because in 1801 the French surrendered Egypt to the British. On Napoleon's defeat, the stone became property of the British under the terms of the Treaty of Alexandria, along with other antiquities that the French had found. The stone was shipped to England and arrived in Portsmouth in February 1802, and then to the British Museum in London. By the early 1800s, hieroglyphs and Demotic have not been able to have been read for what is thought to have been as many as 1,500 years. Ancient Greek, though, was widely known by scholars, but the Greek on the stone was still difficult to read as it was written during a time with few other examples of its use. Other difficulties was the stone was incomplete. The top section, containing the hieroglyphs, has the most missing. Only 14 lines remain. Hieroglyphs were placed on the top as they were considered the language of the gods. The middle section, containing the Demotic text, has all 32 of its lines, although 14 of which are damaged. The bottom section, with the Greek, contains 54 lines, 27 of which are partial. Still, this was a critical discovery that will lead to our modern understanding of ancient hieroglyphs, changing what we know of ancient Egyptian life. Egyptian Demotic was already being studied for decades at the time of the stone's discovery, with very little progress being made. The key to deciphering became identifying names occurring in each text. After successfully identifying 5 names between the Demotic and Greek, an alphabet for Demotic was made, although at the time, some of the text could not have been deciphered, as we now know the symbols are ideographic alongside phonetic ones. Now the key to the hieroglyphs was also a name. It was commonly agreed, but now confirmed by Egyptologists of the time, that royal names and hieroglyphs are contained within cartouches. A cartouche is an oval with a line at either end indicating the direction of reading. A cartouche is usually found to be vertical, but in many cases horizontal, as with the Rosetta Stone. Thomas Young discovered the hieroglyphs contained a cartouche with these phonetic characters that were used to write the Greek name Ptolemaeus. This decipher led Young to note as many as 80 similarities of the hieroglyphs to the Demotic, recognizing that Demotic is partly phonetic and ideographic. This also confirmed that all 3 of the scripts were the same text, which was still being debated at the time. Over the next few decades, the translations were refined more and our understanding of hieroglyphs expanded. It is worth noting that with so much of the stone missing and the three texts not matched word for word, we may never have a complete understanding of the stone's contents. Nevertheless, the Rosetta Stone provided Egyptologists with a starting point that led them to our modern understanding of Egyptian hieroglyphs and those same Egyptians' day-to-day life. The Rosetta Stone today still sits in the British Museum, where a gallery had to be built special in order to support its weight. It has been housed there since it was originally brought to England from Egypt in 1802. For a period in World War I, for fear of bombings, it spent 2 years underground in the Postal 2 Railway. Still now, a lot of controversy surrounds the British Museum's possession of the stone. Egypt has made many attempts for repatriation of the stone and many other of Egypt's artifacts from all over the world to be returned to its home nation. Many believe that since the stone is safe in its current location, that it should stay for fear of damage during transportation. We'll touch on the topic of repatriation of artifacts in a future video. The significance of the Rosetta Stone's discovery will never go unnoticed. It is not the first and will not be the last of these types of stones to be found, but it provided us with our first look back into ancient Egyptian culture. Thank you for watching, and please like, subscribe, and comment below on your thoughts or experiences with the Rosetta Stone, as well as suggestions for future videos.